there, rednecks, preppies, redneck preppies. It's me, the Redneck Preppy. How are you doing today? Great? Good. Yeah, we're back with another episode of the Redneck Preppy Rages at Bubba Guns. This being the 11th edition of this sad spectacle of Bubba gunsmithing. I'm pretty sure we'll see old favorites like molested Mosins, sacrificed SKSs, and lamentable Lee Enfields. Those, of course, being the mainstays of the Bubba gun world. Perhaps we'll see some other firearms being savagely abused by Bubba as well. Enough of that. Let's begin. Okay, our first entry, I guess it's almost tradition that we begin with either an SKS, a Mosin, or a Lee Enfield, so let's continue on with it. This, of course, was once a Lee Enfield. I'm not sure which one, given how much this one's been molested, but I'd guess it began life as a number 4 Mark I. Before, like a kid, it was forcibly transitioned by one of them hormone-dispensing doctors we're hearing about. Unlike those hormone-addled kids, though, this rifle ain't coming back from this procedure. Well, better make sure your kids don't actually play duck hunt with this entry, though I think that reference would be lost on millennials and Z. Anyway, I can't say that I've ever understood why people do this to their firearms. People might laugh at seeing this pistol once, but after that, you're the guy at the range with the idiotic firearm. I'd be willing to bet that this guy probably open carries if he lives in a state where that's allowed. I don't know why I think that, but I'm probably right. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what this originally was, but it's a bullpup, so it's garbage anyway. But once again, I don't get what the point of this sort of thing is. I don't mean to say that you can't have fun with your firearms. I just don't get this. I originally thought that Thomas the Tank Engine thing at the top of the rifle was a cleverly disguised optic of some kind, holographic or red dot, whatever. I mean, it's certainly big enough to be one of those horse EOTechs, but it appears just to be an attached toy. If so, how on God's earth do you aim this? Well, assuming someone actually shoots this. Sig Sauer MPXs aren't particularly expensive as rifles go. I think I've seen them, anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000. Well, assuming you can find one for sale. But even a PDW with a key mod on it, remember key mod, deserves better than this. I swear that red in the metallic shade has to be the first thing that poor people who want to jazz up their firearms do, with skeletonized attachments coming in close second. Nothing against the poors, I'm one of them, but just save the pennies and do it right. It's a twofer, and our first SKS of the video. Yes, I suppose that hints at more. I'm not sure what that rifle is on the bottom of this picture, but this entry didn't make it into the video because of the rifles themselves, but rather the interesting choice in paint and color schemes. Now, I'm as tired of seeing molested SKS 45s as the next man, and make no mistake, under that paint job is another bubba'd SKS. But it's the paint that annoys me the most. I get the feeling that these things never get fired because the owner doesn't want to take a chance on damaging their paint. Pick your heroes carefully, my friends. Now, as a Canadian, while I applaud Donald Trump for many of the things he did during his term in office, his record on Second Amendment issues was somewhat less than inspirational. It was fitting that he spoke at the NRA's annual convention one year because both he and the NRA talked a lot more about gun rights than they ever managed to accomplish. Whether as a president, in his case, or as an organization with millions in annual revenues. Best thing about this build is the Vortex optic. Sorry about the quality of the picture. I can only work with what I receive. Anyway, we've seen this sort of tomfoolery in the past. Let's take a revolver and slap AR parts bin level stuff on it. I can't even say this one is even particularly well done. The funny part is that the optic looks like it's blocked by the front sight post. Nicely done, Bubba. Nicely done. Welcome to the high point of the video. See what I did there? With an abomination that ticks almost every box there is on the trash gun checklist. Crap tier handgun. Check. No name optics, lights, and lasers. Check. Hand-scribed cleverness. Check. Tough guy talk somewhere on the handgun. Check. The end result of this is a handgun that would still fail when you need it the most, especially with that hot glued looking pick rail on the back, probably flying off and taking your red dot with it at the same time. The color of the paint is actually the least offensive part of this whole thing. Oy vey, these crap tier AR builds painted up to look like children's toys are seriously wearing me out. What's worse is whoever thrust this into the world didn't bother to actually put Woody's face somewhere. I mean, what was the point of all that work? I guess that was a step too far because they didn't want their AR to actually look like a toy, right? The longer you look at this rifle, the more confused you're going to be. It was like that woman that you met once at that bar in Thailand, and you were like, man, I know something's wrong, but I can't put my finger on it. Well, I know you looked at this and immediately thought, SKS 45. What's the problem, Preppy? Well, outside of what was done to it, of course. Look at the back half of the rifle. Yeah, you see it now, don't you? Party up front with the SKS 45, business in the rear with the Kar 98K bolt action and buttstock. Now, I don't know if this is real or a really good Photoshop, but I'd admire this if it wasn't the result of ruining not one, but two military surplus rifles. All that work in the service of evil. Yep, another SKS 45. This time, a bullpupped one. Yeah, not the first time we've seen that. You could actually buy this. This picture was taken in a gun store. If you wanted to experience an SKS with an even worse trigger than the stock one, awkward loading mechanics, and a bargain basement red dot sight. If you don't look too closely, you'd think this was a well-done conversion, and for the most part, it's not horrible quality, but the time and money necessary to have done this probably would have gotten you a purpose-built bullpup. I guess someone wanted to prove that they could strip a handgun down to its most elemental level, and succeeded, but then also wanted to add a flash hider to it. I don't know, it's probably safe to shoot once or twice. Tell you what, you can go first. I guess someone wanted a FAMAS as badly as Ian McCollum did, had the money, but couldn't actually find one. Understandable, given that they are as rare as hen's teeth on this side of the big blue water. So they did the next worst thing. They took a perfectly good Uzi and sort of kind of not really molested it into a FAMAS-looking thing. I'm going to assume this is a rock and roll version of an Uzi, so someone had that dealer sample, looked at it, and asked, how can I destroy its value? The Uzi isn't as awesome as its reputation holds, but it deserves better than some yuts doing this to it. Hey, another high point. This thing looks more rickety than Joe Biden delivering a speech. You know, this is another example of if you wanted one thing, the time and money spent on converting another thing to it would have been better spent just buying the first thing in the first place. Yeah, the high point and optics probably don't cost that much, but you could have actually bought a high point carbine and it would have only been slightly less ugly. Though, probably also as embarrassing. At first, I thought this was a practical joke, but 95% of what you see in this picture is actually stock. Yes, it's that Mossberg 464 SPX tactical lever action rifle. Why am I including it if it's not actually bubba'd? Well, you know what? I disagree, friends. I think this rifle is Mossberg's attempt to pre-bubba a firearm for its users to save them time. So I applaud them for it. And whoever owns this for adding that angled foregrip and crap tier light and optic on it. Icing on the cake. I'm going to be honest with you. I have no idea what this is, what it was, and how it got from one to the other. I do know that it seems like 5 different firearms were sacrificed to some dark god to get to what we have here in front of us. I see some Allen keys in this picture, but where was the Dremel? Man, I know there's one around here somewhere. Let's end on an honest-to-goodness high note, at least for me. This too looks like multiple firearms were used to put this together, but I actually like this one. The wood stock and the hand grip pairs very nicely with that bare metal upper receiver. Despite the fact that the lower receiver and the magazine don't match, at least aesthetically, that doesn't bother me. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I would own this and would love shooting it. This is the gun that I would assemble in the apocalypse. That's it, folks. That's as much as I could take. If I could afford it, I'd be in for years of therapy after this. As such, it will have to be a lot of rye whiskey and crying. At any rate, protect those firearms of yours, my friends. Bubba is constantly on the hunt and is armed with a Dremel and some JB weld, so beware. Take care and bye-bye.